Rich the Kid announced last week that he signed a multi-million-dollar deal with Mac Miller and Wiz Khalifa's former label Rostrum Records and just released his new single, Richard Millie Paddock.
I didn't realize
Patek.
when you said Rostrum Records,
Yeah.
I recognized that name, but I didn't realize that it was them. That is odd.
It is interesting, but they've kind of made their label a little bit more known in the forefront of things I find over the last few years. I think they signed 24 Hours, who is Made in Tokyo's brother. Who is a pretty interesting artist. He's kind of a singer and he raps sometimes and stuff. But
Mod Sun was on there?
Mod Sun was signed to Rostrum, Wiz Khalifa, Mac Miller, Internet James, Cornelius, the Bird and the Bee, the Private Club. The Private Club, that's on. I'm just looking at the Wikipedia page of their roster. That is the label of Made in Tokyo.
Rocky Fresh was on
Rocky
relatively
Fresh
recently.
Yeah, Rocky Fresh is with Rostrum Records right now. But Rostrum Records is considered an independent label, so Rich the Kid is independent by signing with them, I believe. But he released his new single, Richard Millie Patek. I've always been a fan of Rich the Kid. I know he puts himself in situations sometimes that makes it really easy for people to hate on him, but the Rich Forever collaborative albums that he did with Famous Dex and Jay Critch are classic. Like the third one, I think Rich Forever 3, I mean, me and Mickey, when I was going to perform at Montreal on the way back home, we listened to that shit the whole drive because it was just like Mickey, shout out to Mickey, he would just use DatPiff. Still to this day, he does not pay for any streaming services, so if something good pops up on DatPiff, that is how he's getting his music, and Rich the Kid has just been always very committed to DatPiff, so that is why he's a fan of Rich the Kid.
I have DatPiff on my phone.
DatPiff is dope. I haven't been on DatPiff in a minute, but we just watched that music video for the new Rich the Kid single. I feel like Rich the Kid needs to be covered more in the media, and if we can develop
solid.
I think that he's good, man. I feel like he's like he's the fourth Migo.
And I feel like he's
but we
were saying this before,
better.
like he wiped his Instagram, and it sounds like he changed the pitch. I think
that's just for the song, but he also did this like promotional thing for like before the song came out. I saw on his Instagram, like you said, he wiped most of his stuff off his Instagram. He announced that he signed with Rostrum Records, so he's kind of entering into a new chapter in his career. You know, he had this big major single. He put out mixtapes before he really kind of popped off with New Freezer and Plug Talk.
I feel like I was listening to him.
He just is someone that I think has networked really well within the music industry. Even if you listen to his album that came out last year, he had Post Malone features and all this shit.
What?
Like to be able to pull that shit off, like there's not many artists that Post Malone's doing a feature with. And Rich the Kid somehow has always managed to be able to get high artists, like high tier artists on his songs. Like the fact that he did a song with Kendrick Lamar is fucked. Mm-hmm. Especially for the type of artist that most people would consider him to be.
But he's also been around and kind of making his own moves. You know what I mean?
But I like this new song he did.
Business for a long time.
I'm excited. I'll always will vouch and support Rich the Kid, regardless of whatever kind of accusations and hate that he gets from the general hip hop community. I think that he's he might not always convey it, but I think he's a smart guy. And low key, I mean, he had a label and he signed Famous Dex and Jay Critch. And I mean, Famous Dex is always getting into trouble, whether it's being addicted to drugs, which I think he's gotten over now, but he has a few charges as of right now. I think he's like a domestic abuse charge and a guns charge and all this shit. But he had and then he got robbed for his chain last month. He had like a really bad month. But all that aside, Rich the Kid has found some talent, and the artists he's found, people have liked. And
Jay Critch is actually really solid too. And I feel like, I haven't dug through his personal catalog, but like I always found for his performance on their projects together that he doesn't seem to have the crowd that he deserves.
Yeah, he definitely got fans and shit. Like Rich the Kid is actually originally from New York, but he's classified under Atlanta rappers. But Jay Critch is from New York, so I think Rich the Kid has always had appreciation for rappers out of New York. But the first time I heard Jay Critch was on that Rich Forever 3 album with Rich and Famous and Dex and him, and I always thought Jay Critch kills every song that's on there. But put respect on Rich the Kid's name.
And Jay Critch.
And Jay Critch. And Famous Dex.
Yeah.
First time I ever heard Famous Dex, I was like, this is god-awful. I can't finish this, but I learned to respect it over time.
He took that picture. You actually liked my comment on on the picture. But
it was like
crazy
some shitty apartment?
Yeah, he's in like this dirty-ass apartment, and there's like a fucking sucker on the floor. It looked like it'd been there for weeks. I was just like,
this is a guy that got like a gold record at least, like a couple songs with like big fucking rappers, and he just posts so much. And he goes on, like, if you ever click on this guy, his famous text we're talking about here, if you go to his Instagram story, it's like 5 minutes long. There's just so many posts all the time. If he's hopping in the Uber, at least 6 Instagram stories. And it's hard to think that I don't know, like, I hope that he's sober now, because he was one of the few he was a rapper that like, that guy would hop on Instagram Live. You ever see when he fell asleep on Instagram Live?
Yeah, he just passed out.
Yeah.
He's literally talking.
He was on Instagram Live, literally fell asleep. You know, and, you know, he said he was sleep deprived because he was in the studio all night, whatever. But Rich the Kid sent him to rehab. So shout out to Famous Dex. Hope he's doing well. But I like this new Rich the Kid song. But he also because Rich the Kid went through an airport last month with a fucking gun in his bag and then got arrested. Which is crazy. There was another rapper that did that a few months ago, too. I don't know if it was Jim Jones, I think.
I used to think that was weird, but this is the thing. There's certain states, like, and I think this is stupid, but Texas, this month, I believe, made it legal for anybody to carry a weapon on them, like open carry, without a permit. So, like, before, you would have to go get a permit to be open carry. Now, anybody that has a gun can keep it on them when they go outside. So, you know what I mean? If you're in a state like that, and Georgia is they're not like, they didn't vote conservative for the presidency this time around. They went blue, but that's uncommon for them. Like, they're a more Republican state. They're very, like, pro-gun. And so, like, him being in Atlanta and being used to having guns on him, could kind of explain that, where he's like, oh, I can take a gun in my bag or something. I don't know how all that works, but if he's maybe flying from a state that is very pro-gun to a state that is very, doesn't have such open laws when it comes to guns, I could see that he wouldn't even think about that. And then go to get on a plane. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
When your life is moving at such a fast pace as, like, someone who might be a famous rapper or just someone who's constantly required for their job to travel a lot. You know, you make a lot of money. It's probably habit for you to carry a gun on you if you don't always feel like paying for security whenever you're moving around. You might end up slipping and just abruptly show up at the airport with your bag that you take everywhere, and you might have forgot to take your gun out. And from the public eye, we're like, how could you go to the airport and not actually know that you have a fucking firearm in the bag that you're going to be running through the, security?
Well, if you're Andy travels a lot, so, like,
when I even in a pandemic, I'm sure you're catching more flights than the average person.
Yeah, I don't travel much, so when the last time I got on a flight, I was like, I know everything in my bag, and I still forgot things. So,
I brought a jewel to Panama, so me and Rose brought a jewel to Panama. Fuck with me. But he was also, so aside from that, he was given a fine of a minimum, I think $250 to $1,000. For the night before that new single that he just put out came out. He was in L.A. and there's a video right here if I bring it up on TMZ. He was outside the Louis Vuitton store. He was having a good time. He was vibing out. New single coming out.
He was high as fuck right there.
And
he was like uncomfortably high. But
you know what's crazy? So I'm looking on TMZ's site right here, and I actually thought this was going to be the video of him throwing the money. So he basically got a fine for littering because he was parked on the side of the street throwing money.
Oh, I saw that video. Yeah, and he's throwing money all over the place.
This is a DMX funeral video. But yeah, he was just throwing money, and people were running around picking it up. It was some girl's birthday, and he was taking selfies with them and everything. I don't know why this video's not showing up on the laptop here. But anyway, he got a ticket for that. And I'm looking at the TMZ article here, and it's like talking about how he got a ticket for throwing money in Los Angeles on the side of the street for littering. And then it's like he was doing this because he just left the Louis Vuitton store or whatever, the Paddock store. I don't know, anything like that. That's what it said. He was outside of the store. He was celebrating his new single coming out, blah, blah, blah. Do you think this is just planned by the record label? Like, hey, man, because he was throwing ones. So it's like, you're relatively financially stable. Here, take some money. Go park outside here, downtown L.A. TMZ will show up because you're a famous rapper. Throw money out for people. The cameras will show up. This will be a story. People will start reading it, whatever. And then they might go look at your new single.
That in itself would have been
the music video is literally embedded in the article here. What do you think, Jay?
I think it's 100% like just a publicity thing. Like he did it to sell. Like that's.
I absolutely think that would be a publicity move. I feel like the fine was probably authentic though. because that in and of itself is its own story. Like, oh, here, you know what I mean?
It's not like a super unrealistic thing to happen. Rappers have done this before. Like Blueface did that like last year, and he probably wasn't even trying to promote anything. But any type of public appearance like this, where you create some kind of spectacle for media outlets to write about, you could just generate more attention for you anyway.
I feel like that in itself was enough. You know what I mean? Him being outside of a store, throwing all the money, blah blah blah. It's just some shitty filler story, right? Yeah. And even with the fine, it's still some shitty filler story where it just plugs to his music video. So he didn't really need to get the fine for that publicity. It could have been like, oh, look at Rich the Kid throwing money.
That has happened before. Remember when I don't know if you ever saw the video of Blueface, like last year he went somewhere in LA and he just jumped on his car and started throwing money in like some place where there was a bunch of homeless people, and people were shitting on him because they were like, why are you throwing money on people? It's like he's literally probably paying for these people's meals for the next fucking 2 weeks, depending on how much they picked up. But Rich the Kid did the same thing, and it's probably smart because think about it. Artists will they'll pay a PR company to do a write-up for their new release and send it out to like 500 blogs in the hopes that people that read those blogs then go and listen to their music. So this is TMZ. Obviously, he's a famous fucking artist, so anything like this that he would do would probably get covered by TMZ. But, it's like, here, go throw $500, get a TMZ article. I